You were a smart kid. Everyone said so. You finished the assignment before the others even understood the instructions. You saw through the lies adults told you, even if you couldn't quite name them. You had an instinct. Call it intuition, call it pattern recognition. Whatever it was, it made you sharper than most. Teachers praised you. Friends leaned on you. Some envied you. You probably didn't notice that last one. You used to believe you were meant for something more. Not in an arrogant way. Just quietly. Deep down. Like there was a weight in your mind the others didn't carry. You noticed things. Asked questions no one else asked. Saw through the surface while others played along. They called you gifted. A think-old soul. Whatever name they gave it, it felt like a promise. Like life would eventually reward you for being that way. So why do you feel so lost now? Why do you feel behind? Watching people with half your depth climb higher, faster, louder. Why do you feel invisible in rooms you should be leading? Let me tell you something most won't. It's not because you're broken. It's because you were trained for a world that doesn't exist. They taught you how to solve problems, but not how to sell solutions. They taught you to be honest, but not how to manage appearances. They told you the truth would win. It doesn't. Power does. And now, you're stuck, not because you're weak, but because you were mild. Smart kids get rewarded in school, but in life rewards strategy. And if you don't learn that your intelligence becomes a burden, you overthink. You hesitate. You drown in possibilities while others act. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming dangerous in the right way, strategically, quietly, unapologetically, because the world doesn't care how smart you are. It only cares what you do with it. And now you're not where you thought you'd be. You're surrounded by people with less insight, less ambition, less raw intelligence. But they're doing better. They move forward, get rewarded, get recognized. You feel like you've been left behind by a world that used to make sense to you. And maybe you're asking yourself that quiet, bitter question, what happened to me? The answer isn't that you got dumber. It's that the game changed, and no one told you. You were taught to value intelligence, but intelligence is a tool, not a weapon. And in the real world, tools don't win battles. Strategies do. The smart kid grew up thinking merit wins. That effort and ideas are enough. That being right matters. But the world isn't a test. There's no teacher to give you an A. The world rewards perception, not reality. Power, not purity. Position, not potential. Look at Julius Caesar. Born into a fading aristocratic family, not the strongest name in Rome. But he understood something most Roman elites didn't. The crowd matters more than the Senate. He flattered the people, gave them bread, gave them spectacle. Meanwhile, he seduced the powerful, borrowed from them, and slowly outmaneuvered them. Not with purity, not with honesty, but with strategy. That's the thing about real success. It doesn't reward the cleverest. It rewards the most calculating. You were probably told to be humble, to be kind, to be fair, and those are lovely values, until you're in a room full of people who only pretend to believe in them. They nod at fairness while cutting deals behind closed doors. They smile while stacking the odds in their favor. They tell you it's about collaboration while they're busy competing. In politics, Henry Kissinger understood this perfectly. He didn't believe in playing by the rules. He believed in understanding the rules so he could bend them. To him, diplomacy wasn't about making friends. It was about cold balance, leverage, positioning, perception. When Kissinger negotiated with China, he didn't walk in with moral superiority. He walked in with intel, with timing, with options. That's power, and it's ugly. But it works. So why are you lost? Because no one ever taught you how to play. They taught you how to be good, how to be bright, how to be impressive, but not how to be dangerous. Not how to deal with liars, flatterers, manipulators. Not how to build leverage. Not how to say no. You spent your youth learning how to impress authority, not how to become it. Think about it. In school, you were rewarded for answering questions. In life, power belongs to those who know which questions not to answer. You were praised for raising your hand. Now you're punished for standing out. You were taught to share your thoughts. But in a world where information is power, the loudest voice is rarely the wisest. Sometimes, it's the most exposed. The workplace is a jungle in a suit. The rules are softer, but the game is the same. It's not the smartest who gets promoted. It's the one who plays visibility like a weapon, who networks, who flatters up and punches down, who picks their battles and lets others burn. Intelligence might make you competent, but competence is threatening to those who climb by connections, so they sideline you. Politely, of course, through endless meetings, through vague feedback, through opportunities that never quite land in your lap. You ever notice how the ones who rise fastest are rarely the most capable? That's not an accident. It's design. Because they understand something the smart kid never learning. It's not about being the best. It's about appearing essential, making others depend on you, making your absence feel like a threat. That's Machiavellian, yes, but it's survival. Napoleon said it besting, men are moved by two levers only, fear and self-interest. Not logic, not fairness, fear and self-interest. When you were younger, you probably thought people made decisions based on reason. That if you just explained things well enough, they'd listen. But people don't follow reason. They follow incentives. Fear of missing out. Hope of gain. Fear of punishment. Hope of protection. That's what moves them. So, ask yourself in the structures you're part of. Work, relationships, communities. What incentive do people have to invest in you? To fear your absence? To align with your interests? If you can't answer that, you're not playing the game. You're hoping for fairness in a casino rigged by insiders. You might be wondering, what's the point of all this darkness? Am I supposed to become cold? Manipulative? Am I supposed to betray my values? No, but you do need to stop expecting others to live by them. You can still have principles, but if you want to survive, hell, if you want to win, you have to cloak them in strategy. Be kind, but be honest, but not exposed. Be brilliant, but not predictable. The smart kid failed because he didn't adapt. He trusted the rules he was taught. He thought the world reward clarity and competence, but the world rewards usefulness and threat. You want to stop feeling lost? Then stop looking for the map you were promised. There is no map, only terrain. And terrain favors the one who learns to move through it with eyes open, spine straight, and knife ready. Not for violence, but for precision, for cutting through illusion, for survival. And if you're thinking, this isn't who I want to be, ask yourself this: is it better to lose as who you are or to win as someone who learned? Because in the end, even Machiavelli didn't worship power for its own sake. He worshipped clarity. The clarity that comes when you strip away the fantasy of how things should work and look coldly at how they do. You were a smart kid. You still are. But it's time to stop being just smart. It's time to become strategic. The smart kid got older. He read more books, learned more facts, maybe even got a degree or two. He knew things others didn't. He could argue. He could explain. But somewhere along the way, he stopped moving forward. And the ones who knew less, thought less. They passed him by. At first, he told himself they were just lucky. Then he said they were sellouts. But deep down, a darker truth whispered, maybe they understood something he didn't. And they did. They understood how power really flows. You see, a power doesn't rise through merit. It flows through networks, through loyalty, through perception. The world runs on alliances, not accuracy. That's the ugly truth the smart kid never learned. While he was focused on being right, others were focused on being useful. While he honed his skills, others were building coalitions, relationships, dependencies. That's how kingdoms are won. not with genius, but with leverage. Look again at Caesar. He didn't conquer Gaul because he was the most talented general. He did it because he owed money to Crassus, made political deals with Pompey, and used his victories to buy the love of the Roman mob. His intelligence wasn't in the strategy alone, it was in knowing where to apply it. Who to charm, who to ignore, who to eliminate. The modern world works the same way. In corporations, it's not the hardest worker who rises, it's the one who's most indispensable to the boss's agenda. In politics, it's not the most truthful who gains followers, it's the one who tells the most useful lie. In social circles, it's not the most moral who thrives, it's the one who plays status like chess. You were taught to seek truth. They were taught to seek position. And here's where it gets worse. Intelligence without influence breeds frustration. Because you can see what's happening, you understand how broken it is, but you can't stop it. You're Cassandra, blessed with insight, cursed with irrelevance. And so you spiral. You start questioning yourself. You wonder if maybe you were never that smart to begin with. But that's the trap. The truth is, your mind was your weapon. But no one showed you how to load it. You were trained for the wrong battlefield. You thought life was a meritocracy, but life is a series of power structures, each one held together by ambition, fear, and illusion. Look at Kissinger again. Love him or hate him. He saw the world as it was divided, tribal, opportunistic. He didn't try to fix that. He mastered it. He played China against Russia, played war against peace. And in doing so, he reshaped global alliances, not because he had the best ideals, but because he understood timing, leverage, and calculated ambiguity. This is the language no one taught you, the language of ambiguity. The art of being understood by some and misunderstood by others, on purpose. Because clarity, while noble, is also dangerous. If people fully understand your intentions, they can oppose them. But if they only think they understand you, they hesitate. They guess. They project. And that gives you space, breathing room, time to maneuver. The smart kid wanted to be understood. The Machiavellian man wants to be respected. And sometimes that means being feared. Now, fear doesn't mean aggression. It means unpredictability. It means being the kind of person others can't ignore. It means having edges. You've probably spent your life trying to smooth those edges, to be likable, to be agreeable. But likability is not the same as influence. Likability fades. Power endures. Ask yourself this: how many times have you held back the truth to avoid discomfort? How many times have you let incompetence win because you didn't want to seem arrogant? How often have you betrayed yourself just to be liked? And did it work? Did you get the recognition, the role, the reward, or do you just get quieter? There's a cruel irony in being the smart kid. You were rewarded for thinking, but the world belongs to those who act. And often, it's not the best plan that wins, it's the boldest. Fortune, as Machiavelli wrote, is a woman, and she favors the audacious. You don't need more knowledge. You need nerve. The courage to play a game you didn't invent, with rules you didn't choose, but to play it better than anyone else. You don't have to become a tyrant, but you do have to stop being passive. Stop waiting for recognition. Stop hoping your work will speak for itself. It won't. People aren't listening, they're watching. Watching who commands attention, who dares to step forward, who has the frame to lead. Think of frame like gravity. It's the invisible force that makes others orbit around you, not because you demand it, but because you embody it, through presence, through clarity, through risk. The smartest people are often the most hesitant. They see all the angles, all the ways something can go wrong, and that's useful, in theory, but in practice it leads to paralysis. The dumbest guy in the room makes a move. Everyone rallies. The smart one hesitates. And the moment passes. That's how you lose. And over time, you become what you feared irrelevant, not because you lacked value, but because you failed to signal it. So, how do you fix it? Start by shedding the idea that your intelligence entitles you to anything. It doesn't. Not respect, not status, not success. The world owes you nothing for being sharp. But you can take what you want. If you're willing to think like a strategist. That means playing roles, wearing masks, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to flatter and when to confront, when to bend and when to break. Because power is not about being your full self all the time. It's about choosing which self to deploy. Like a weapon. You can still be you, but let you be a toolkit, not a cage. In part 3, we'll go deeper into how to reclaim your lost edge, how to stop playing by rules that no longer serve you, and how to turn your intelligence into leverage. Because the question isn't why do you feel lost anymore. The question is, how much longer are you willing to stay lost? When you were born to lead, there's a moment every smart person eventually faces. A quiet realization, a shift, not a breakdown, not a crisis, but something colder. You stop blaming others for why you're not where you want to be. And you start seeing the game for what it really is. Not fair, not rational, not moral, just human. And humans are messy, tribal, reactive, easily manipulated. That's not cynicism, that's the terrain. And the moment you accept, that is the moment you stop feeling lost. You weren't lost. You were lied to by a system that told you good things come to good people. That competence speaks for itself. That truth is enough. But behind the curtain, the truth is more brutal and more liberating. It's not the best ideas that win. It's the best positioned people. Not the hardest workers, the most visible, not the most moral, the most aligned with power. You don't rise by virtue, you rise by calculation. Look at Napoleon. At 26, he was a no-name artillery officer with little status. But he understood one thing: opportunity doesn't wait for rank. So he seized a moment, put down a riot in Paris, and suddenly everyone looked at him differently. One move, one act of boldness shifted his entire trajectory. From there, he never stopped calculating, never stopped consolidating. He praised liberty while crushing opposition, promised peace while planning war. Not because he was evil, because he was realistic. You can hate that, or you can learn from it. Because the ones who win aren't the ones with the most idealism. They're the ones who understand timing, who know when to speak, when to strike, and when to disappear. But here's the part no one wants to say: even being brilliant isn't enough. You have to be ruthless with how you use that brilliance. Not cruel, not immoral, ruthless. That means cutting distractions, cutting emotional dead weight, cutting your addiction to being liked, and cutting the lies you tell yourself. Like the lie that if you just keep being patient, someone will notice. No one is coming to save you. Not your boss, not your friends, not the world. The only person who can rescue the smart kid is the strategist inside him. And here's how you begin. First, stop sharing everything you think. People don't reward insight. They reward scarcity, mystery, presence. If you're constantly talking, constantly proving, constantly explaining, you're not commanding attention. You're begging for approval. Let others underestimate you. That's power. Silence, when used deliberately, is terrifying. People fill it with their own fears, their own assumptions. You become less predictable, and unpredictability breeds respect, or at least caution. And that's enough. Second, build leverage. Real leverage. The kind that makes people need you, not like you. That could be money, information, access, status, but something that, if you walked away, would leave a hole. Because the only real security in this world is being missed. You ever notice how some people never get questioned, never get blamed, even when they screw up? That's not luck. That's leverage. They've made themselves indispensable, either through fear, through loyalty, or through raw value. You need to stop being replaceable. That starts with stopping the things that drain your time and give you nothing in return. Empty validation, endless debates, pleasing people who don't matter, Third, get strategic with your emotions. You were probably taught to be authentic, but authenticity without control is self-sabotage. You can feel everything, but you don't need to show everything, especially not in real time. Caesar wept in private. Kissinger delayed reactions for days. Napoleon used silence as a weapon, not because they didn't feel, but because they refused to let others use their emotions against them. You think showing emotion makes you human, but in power games, it often makes you vulnerable. Save your truth for the right moment. That's not manipulation. That's discipline. And finally, study human nature like your life depends on it. Because it does. Most people think others are like them, but they're not. You might value logic, others value status. You might seek truth, others seek safety. Until you grasp what moves people, you'll always be guessing. That was Machiavelli's genius. He didn't invent corruption. He didn't create manipulation. He simply observed how power actually behaves. Without flinching, he knew that people are not ruled by ideals. They're ruled by appearances, by fear, by desire. And the one who understands that will always control the one who doesn't. That's why you feel lost. You were raised in a dream. You woke up in a war, and no one trained you for it. But now you're here, awake, frustrated, maybe, but finally seeing. And that's your edge. Because once you see the battlefield, you stop playing the wrong game. The smart kid was taught to chase answers. But the Machiavellian man, he studies incentives. He asks better questions, like, who benefits if I stay quiet? Who gains if I doubt myself? Whose game am I playing? And how do I flip the board? These aren't academic questions, they're survival tools. Because every day you delay, someone else climbs. Every time you hesitate, someone else exploits it. Every moment you keep playing fair in an unfair game, you lose. So don't ask whether it's too late. Ask whether you're willing to adapt. Because there are only two kinds of people in this world, the players and the played. You were a smart kid. That got you to the door. Now it's time to learn how to walk through it. And own the room on the other side. Let's stop pretending. You didn't get here by accident. You didn't end up confused, anxious, or stuck because you were lazy or stupid. You got here because you were trained for the wrong game. You were taught how to think, but not how to win. And now the world feels off, like the rules don't make sense. Because they don't. Not the rules you were taught. You were told to be kind, to be fair, to wait your turn. But outside the classroom, turns are taken, not given. And fairness, that's a luxury of the powerful. Everyone else lives under the law of results. Still, there's a voice in your head that says this is wrong, that it shouldn't be this way. That maybe, just maybe, it's better to stay pure and lose than to be strategic and win. But look around. Who benefits from you staying stuck in that mindset? Who gains when you keep your head down, play nice, and avoid conflict? The answer is simply everyone but you. That's the final awakening. Not just that the world is political, but that your idealism has been weaponized against you. You were easier to manage when you believed your intelligence would be enough. When you believed the system would reward you. When you thought patience was noble. But patience without power is just passive obedience. And the world doesn't reward obedience. It exploits it. That's why Machiavelli warned against relying on the goodness of others. Not because goodness doesn't exist, but because it can't be counted on. Not in war, not in politics, and not in life. He wrote, "Men are quicker to forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance." Think about that. It's not cynical. It's instructive. It means people value what serves them. So if you want loyalty, don't offer sentiment. Offer value and leverage. This is how kingdoms are built, not on truth, on terms. Set the terms, and you shape the outcome. Look again at Kissinger. He didn't walk into rooms hoping to be understood. He walked in having already mapped every player's need, weakness, and goal. And then he made himself the center of their solution. That's the blueprint. Stop trying to be seen. Start making yourself necessary. How? You learn to wield three things: frame, leverage, and timing. Frame is the narrative you live in. Most people let others set it. They react, they explain, they defend. But if you set the frame, if you decide what matters, you dictate the conversation. In business, in relationships, in life. People follow those with strong frames, because most don't have one of their own. Leverage is what happens when you stop needing every opportunity and start creating them. It means building a skill, a network, a reputation so sharp that others come to you because they can't move forward without you. But that takes letting go of comfort. It takes becoming dangerous, not violent crew, not capable. Capable of walking away, capable of thinking 10 moves ahead, capable of saying no. That's real power options. And timing? Timing is what separates tacticians from strategists. The tactician says what's true. The strategist says what's useful, when it matters most. You don't need to win every moment. You need to win the right one. Julius Caesar understood this in every conquest. He waited years, gathering power quietly, before crossing the Rubicon. One step, and he broke the Roman Republic. One move at the right time is more powerful than 1,000 at the wrong time. So ask yourself, what move are you delaying right now? What truth are you scared to face? What version of you are you protecting, even though it's holding you back? Because let's be honest, you don't feel lost anymore. You feel unwilling. Unwilling to do what you now know is required. And that's the final barrier. Not confusion. Fear. Fear of becoming who you really are. The part of you that doesn't need approval. The part that doesn't wait to be chosen. The part that doesn't apologize for being powerful. Because underneath the self-doubt, the hesitation, the overthinking, a strategist, a lion. But lions raised in cages don't know how to hunt. They pace in frustration. They feel the hunger, but don't know what it means, until one day they snap. Not in rage, in clarity. And that clarity is this: the cage was never locked. The door has always been open, but walking through it means killing the old self. The one who waited, the one who hoped, the one who played nice. That self is dead weight now, and it's time to bury him. The smart kid got you here, but he can't take you further. He was designed to survive school. You're here to win the world, so go. Get strategic, get sharp. Build your leverage. Build your silence. Build your presence. Not to impress, to dominate. Because the only way to stop feeling lost is to become undeniable. Not later, not when you feel ready. Now.